genre of internet horror story that bucks... Okay, oh, we're still recording. Okay. So, there's this popular genre of internet horror story that bucks the usual format of, like, a story being told, and instead is written as ominous instructions for some kind of game that the reader can really play. Some kind of dangerous, demon summoning game. It's usually formatted like warnings about why you shouldn't do this ritual, followed by exact instructions on how to do the ritual. On one hand, I like this concept because internet horror has become so formulaic that at this point, literally anything different, I'm like, yes, good. Thank you. On the other hand, like everything on the internet, as soon as one of these became popular, there were a million knockoff and spin-off horror ritual instruction manual stories. Then if like a couple of these catch on, people write sequels or spin-offs to specifically those instruction manual stories. So like the elevator game will get popular, and then you'll see a fiction story that's titled like The Elevator Game is Real, Don't Try It. Or I tried the demon summoning ritual scary game and a scary thing happened. I didn't expect that. And it'll just kind of recount the first story and talk about the instructions that they have followed, and then scary thing happens. I think if you want to look at like the proto scary ritual scary story, you could just look at like Bloody Mary. That one's very straightforward. Basically, you take a candle into a dark room, you look in the mirror and say Bloody Mary 3 times, and then Bloody Mary shows up and either tells you who your future husband will be, or turns the mirror red, or beheads you. It depends what version you're listening to. That sounds pretty scary to me, but it turns out that was amateur hour, like waiting to hear what the rituals are like these days. I am delighted to say that I have found a handful of these creepy ritual stories, which I am going to share with you today. And I'm going to start with what I think is the most popular one, Hide and Seek Alone. This one comes from Japan, which is great for its marketability. I'm an American, so I know that the only thing that scares Americans more than ghosts is foreign things that they don't understand. And this is both. Okay, let's see how this game is played. If you don't follow the steps properly, you will die. Do not play this game at all. You will die. Well, I'm sold. Hide and Seek Alone. I'm gonna assume right away that my pronunciation.
If you play this game, you will die. Do not play this game at all.
Originating from Japan, where you let a spirit/demon possess a doll, and then play a game of hide and seek with them. The game is necromancy. It is potentially very dangerous and is not good for your sanity. Do not try this game just because you're curious or want to experience it for yourself. This is a very dangerous, life-risking game. Okay, so I'm not supposed to play this game for the experience or just out of curiosity. So, what are we left with? Under what circumstances do I play this game? Like, for profit? Is there a major leagues of hide and seek alone? Who will sponsor me? Tools. A stuffed doll with limbs. Not a human doll, as there's a huge chance the spirit will not leave it. If you have an animal doll with limbs, it can be used as well. For example, a teddy bear. I see the practicality of this. I assume that a spirit will find anything that's not a human doll, like, slightly too demeaning to want to stay in it. Like, I've got this shark doll that has limbs and is dressed as Han Solo. I feel like any self-respecting spirit would be like, yeah, no. For the record though, even though they say not to need a doll, they do call it a doll for the whole rest of the instructions, presumably because they realized early on that teddy bear is just not a very menacing phrase. Starting ritual, give your stuffed doll a name. For example, Fluffy or Rover. These names are weak. Cut the bear/doll open and take all of its stuffing out. Put rice in the bear/doll as well as part of your body, such as fingernail. Okay, they mean put part of your body in the doll. I thought they meant put rice in your body. I was like, by eating it? As well as part of your body, such as fingernails. Sew the doll back up again with red thread and wrap the remaining red string around the whole doll. This is important as it binds the spirit. I assume the only reason you're putting fingernails in the doll instead of like a strand of your hair is just because it's a lot creepier. Fill a bath/large basin with water and then wait until 3 a.m. sharp.
Nice.
Some versions This is up to you. I like that you're going to all the trouble of cutting open a doll, filling it with your fingernails, floating it in a bathtub, and then the instructions are like, you can wait till 3 a.m., but who cares? There's nothing I like more than ambiguity in my dark necromancer rituals.
All right, nice.
Remember to turn off all lights in the house, but leave only the television
We did
on.
it.
It will change depending on the location of the doll. This is another thing where I feel like I'm owed an explanation. Like, I thought this was an ancient Japanese necromancer ritual. Not something a guy invented in the 80s while he was sitting in front of his TV. And how will the TV change? Like, it's gonna show Where's Waldo-style hints of the doll's location? What should the TV be turned to when I start? They make it sound like it doesn't matter, but I have to assume the ritual will be ruined in some way if I'm just blasting Phineas and Ferb. Take the doll along with you to the bathroom and repeat, first tagger is your name 3 times sternly while closing your eyes. Then place the doll in the bath/basin. Walk away to another room, but do not look back. You may see the spirit possessing the doll. If said spirit makes eye contact or notices you looking at it, it may come after you. Isn't it coming after me no matter what? I thought that was the point of the game. Count slowly from 1 to 10. After that, turn around and proceed back to the doll. Go close to the doll in the bath/basin and say, I found you, doll name. And then stab the doll with your weapon/object. After that, close your eyes and repeat, now doll name is it. Okay, so you've invited an angry spirit into a doll that you filled with your fingernails. And now you're inviting the doll to come stab you. I get it. Like, some evenings you're bored and Netflix just won't cut it. Pour some salt water into your mouth. Do not drink the salt water. I was going to be kind of defensive that they felt the need to tell me not to drink the salt water, because, like, that's really unpleasant and potentially bad for you. And then I was like, oh, wait, if I'm playing hide and seek alone, it's fair. It is recommended to keep your doors and windows unlocked in case you unexpectedly run into some trouble. And your friends will be able to help you if they are outside your home. Okay, I have several things to say. First, since when are your friends here? What, they're just standing in the cold outside your dark house while you're in the bathroom stabbing a teddy bear? How did that conversation go? I mean, if you have friends over, why are you playing hide and seek alone? Just go play normal hide and seek. I mean, the instructions say if they're outside, but that's a big if for me. Second, if you don't have friends over, so all your lights are off, like you're not home, and now all your doors and windows are unlocked as well. I'm imagining a burglar coming in while you're playing this game and just seeing you sitting in the dark, clutching a toothpick and spitting salt water on a fingernail doll. Like, can you imagine that guy telling that story to his buddies later? Never attempt to swallow the salt water. Remain silent when you are hiding, as any sounds from you will alert the doll of where you are. If the doll finds you, it will stab you with the object you stabbed it with, then possibly possess you as well. So this is how you're spending your Friday night, just crouching in the dark in your own house, mouth full of salt water, waiting for a teddy bear to come stab you. This is kind of confusing to me, but the instructions don't actually say when to end the game. Like, I don't know how long you give the doll to come find you. Is it just when you get bored? Or when you start drooling salt water all over yourself? If we're being honest, this game feels kind of unfairly stacked in the doll's favor. Anyway, they're like, when you want to end the game, get up and go find the doll where it's looking for you, and then pour more salt water around the doll, and then bury the doll. And then it ends with a bunch of warnings. Do not play this game for more than 2 hours. The spirit inside the doll will be extremely difficult to remove. You know what? I don't think anyone's in danger of playing this game for more than 2 hours. This doesn't feel like the kind of activity that makes time fly by. Messing around with spirits is very dangerous, so play the game at your own risk. Nobody will be responsible for your own death as you risk your life to play this game. Do not turn around when heading to your hiding place. You might see something very disturbing. I like that they couldn't think of what you'll see. How long until all horror stories reach this level of laziness? I looked behind me and saw something scary. Messing around with rituals like this is dangerous. They are serious rituals, not games. If you make a single mistake, then expect to meet a nasty end. You have been warned. Okay, here's the main question I'm left with after reading this tutorial. Why would you play this game? I mean, I was talking about Bloody Mary, like, At least in that case, you might get to know something about your future in some of the versions. There's potentially something you stand to gain by summoning the spirit that wants to kill you. I feel like this game is just like, put an immense amount of effort into ruining a doll to get a spirit to possess it, crouch in the dark, eat some salt, and then when you want to stop, stop. But if you break an arbitrary rule, you will get possessed or stabbed or killed. Like, what's the hook? I guess the only purpose of this game is to scare yourself. Like, if you want a scary ghost thing to happen, then you can try this ritual and see if the teddy bear moves. And if it does, you could be like, ooh. And then you tell all your friends about it, and they go, ooh. But if that's the case, then frankly, I feel like the risks outweigh the potential rewards. Okay, so Hide and Seek Alone was the first ritual instruction story to really take off, but now let's look at a newer one, which is apparently quite popular these days. It's called the elevator game. To play the elevator game, you have to go into an elevator in a building with at least 10 floors. After entering the building, call the lift. If there is anyone in it, do not proceed. Do not enter the lift unless you are alone. So you push a bunch of different buttons in a particular sequence, and then you go to floor 5. On the 5th floor, a young woman may enter the elevator. Do not look at her. Do not speak to her. She is not what she seems. I like that it's left as a maybe, so if you do the game and it doesn't happen, they can be like, well, it doesn't always happen. They don't want their elevator game to be debunked. Quickly press the button for floor 1. If the elevator descends to the first floor, exit as soon as the doors open. Do not look back. Do not speak. And that's presumably where the game ends for most people. If the elevator begins climbing to the 10th floor instead of descending to the first, you may proceed. You may get out of the elevator or choose to stay on it. If you do get off, and the woman did enter the elevator on the 5th floor, she will ask you, where are you going? Do not answer her. Do not look at her. You will know whether you have arrived at the other world. You will be the only person in it. So yeah, the goal of this game is to get to the other world. And it is not explained up front what that is. Actually, it's never explained. Here's the only other stuff we get to know about the other world. If you have successfully reached the other world, when you step out of the elevator, it will look identical to the world you just left. However, there will be 2 things to look out for. There will be no light, and when you look out the window, you will see a red cross in the distance. I have to assume they mean a literal red cross and not just like a medical clinic. So yeah, wow, it sounds great. Like, why do we want to do this? You take this great personal risk and then get out of the elevator and you're just like, oh, look out there. Yeah, I guess it worked. Okay, cool. And then you just like go home. Don't try and video your experience, as electronic devices, mobile phones, cameras, etc. don't work. If they do, you have not reached the other world. Wait, so you have to go alone and now you can't even vlog it? You're not getting anything else out of this experience. You could at least get those sweet AdSense dollars. Or like a selfie with the red cross in the background, like for bragging rights. Getting back to your own world may be more difficult than it seems. You may become confused and forget which elevator you arrived in. The elevator may also seem to be out of reach and get further and further away as you walk towards it. I like that this getting farther away trick sounds like it's the only trick this elevator's got up its sleeve. Like, it's a cool trick, but it's just the one they do every time. 1, you must use the same elevator to return. 2, when you enter the elevator, press the buttons in the same order you did in steps 2 through 8. When you reach the first floor, check your surroundings carefully. If anything seems strange, even the minutest detail, do not exit. If you think something is wrong, repeat step 2 until your surroundings look as they should. Once you are confident you have returned to your own world, you may safely leave the elevator. Wait, what do they mean check your surroundings to the minutest detail? Like, we're either in the other world or the normal world, right? Like, I think I'm gonna notice if there's no lights and a red cross in the sky. Especially if I was just there. This looks familiar. If you faint or pass out during the game, you will probably wake up in your own home.
Ooh.
If this happens,
I
be
made
sure
it.
to thoroughly examine your surroundings, as the home you wake up in may not be the one you are used to. Yeah, well, if it's not, is it really going to matter at this point? If the elevator is capable of taking me to a place so similar to my own realm that I literally can't tell the difference without looking very closely, why is that scary? And if I'm already all the way at home, At that point, I'm not going to be able to find the elevator to get back, so like, I think I'm better off not knowing. Is that creepy woman from the elevator going to be like lurking just out of sight, waiting for me to figure it out so she can be like, and just getting more and more frustrated as I'm like going about my day, whistling to myself, cooking up some Eggo waffles. I like this game because it skates by on being as vague as possible. Like, not only are no rewards promised, there are also no clear consequences. It sounds like if you do it wrong, you can get trapped in the other world, but if you're playing the elevator game, your goal was to get to the other world. Is the other world one of those places like Las Vegas, where like you want to visit but you don't want to live there? This next ritual is called the Scorpion Ritual. I picked it because I hate scorpions and find them very scary. The Scorpion Tail Ritual is a dark and possibly dangerous ritual that is said in some cultures to bring back the dead. Please note that this ritual may fail, and if it does, then the revival will be unsuccessful and the ritual must be repeated. That's a weird consequence that, like, if you mess it up, you'll have to try it again. Ooh. Also, note that if you live in a certain part of the world, scorpions may be difficult to obtain. The body must not be embalmed. If possible, steal it before burial services are attempted. Or better, kill it yourself. Well, if you're willing to kill it, then why are you going to all this trouble to bring it back? One large scorpion, one bottle of acid, one alcoholic beverage. This is used to both counteract the acid and as a drink. If you are underage or refuse to drink, then you do not have to drink any. We're going to help you bring someone back from the dead with a scorpion, but we do not encourage underage drinking. 1 gallon jug of any flammable liquid, 1 spear, optional, Tinder, like real Tinder, not the app. I mean, maybe the app too. So you take this recently dead body out to the woods. You have to be at least 1 mile from anything that uses electricity. They say that maybe gas appliances are okay, but maybe they're not. Again, getting some ambiguity from these instructions that I don't like. Make sure the spear is nearby. If possible, slung behind your back using a holster. Yeah, good thing I have a spear holster in my closet. What does that even look like? Lay the body out, palms up and hands rested on the heart in a cup. Release the scorpion into the cupped hands of the body. Then pour the alcoholic drink into the hands. It does not matter if it spills out, just that most of the drink is pooled. If the scorpion has crawled out, reposition it. Then, using your spear, poke an area in the hands of the body so that the scorpion will instinctively sting the hand. That scorpion is doing nothing. That scorpion is drunk. If you must, force the sting using your hands, but be careful. This is just embarrassing to picture now. I guess it already was. You light a ring of fire around yourself, and then pour the acid directly onto the scorpion. This will kill the scorpion and likely counteract the alcohol. Now I'm just feeling bad for the scorpion, and I don't even like scorpions. After a few moments, the area that you dropped the acid will pool black. At this moment, you must take the spear and stab it into the area the liquid has originated. If you have trouble identifying the origin, stab multiple places. This is a real hack job. As soon as you do this, the corpse will suddenly shake. Pull the spear back. The corpse will begin to rise. The moment the corpse is on its feet, the fire will die, leaving you in the dark. Run. Why are we running now? We just went to all this trouble to bring someone back. I assume they're your friend. As soon as the corpse has risen, it will gain full control over its body. The dead do not like being woken, and they will likely attack. You may attempt to fight it, but the only way to kill the beast is a direct hit onto the area where the poison was placed. However, with such a primitive and flimsy weapon, you will have extreme difficulty doing it. You're the one that told me to bring a spear. Now they're like negging my spear. There are 2 other ways to escape the dead. The first is to simply leave the mile radius and escape. The body will be able to leave the radius, however, as it is not a barrier for him. Well, then why did you tell me? It will likely chase you for the rest of your life until it is ended or you are ended. The second is to hide. The dead fear the light. It is the last thing they saw when they died.
God damn
but
it.
I thought they wanted to stay dead because that's why they're mad. So wouldn't they be like pro-light? If you can hide the rest of the night, and now there's a parenthetical, a good idea would be to do the ritual less than an hour before sunrise. Yeah, thanks for telling me that after I did the whole thing. So basically, if I can hide until sunrise, then it might like get bored and give up. Well, I'm gonna try that one then. Attacking the monster is not suggested at any time unless you can possibly kill the body within a minute of reanimation. Well, Why did it bring them back if I want them dead within 1 minute? The longer they are alive, the angrier they get at being alive. Okay, same. If you have any friends who watch The Ritual, again, we have some friends who apparently just tagged along and sat there. Clearly, the people writing these rituals have better friends than I ever have. Even though they did not help you bring the body back, the body may still show rage for them. Anyone who is not found by the next day will likely have been killed. The reanimated are known to show cannibalistic properties, oftentimes violently ripping apart their victims. If one of your friends is wounded but comes back from the ritual, they may in fact be a slave to the body you brought back, and they will attack you in secret. And then it just ends. This is another one where I do not understand why anyone would do this. Thanks, guys. I've been looking everywhere for instructions on how to reanimate a corpse so that it flies into a rage against me and chases me down until it eats me alive. This next one is called the Game of Knowledge. I don't think it's very popular, but it is short. The first sentence is already intriguing. McGreal. It has been a long time since I have heard of a friendly face in the neighborhood. McGreal is a kind-hearted spirit with a happy mask that can give children joy, and a beige-colored suit and a fedora hat. Covering his medium-length jet black hair, he starts by selecting random people's doors, saying, "It's your lucky day." I love McGreal. Play a game, whether alone or family. It doesn't matter. He simply just wants to have fun. You may be rewarded, or you may get a consequence. Oh, it's turning a bit darker. To summon McGreal, all you have to do is clap your hands 4 times, and at the end of those claps, you chant these words. Finn, Finn, may I be cleansed of sin. McGreal, play with me so I may see what I win. But you can only do this once per month, or if you're the winner, he will never come back to play. But he may be there to visit, to see how well you have been treating your prize. First of all, I love that this guy apparently just shows up and says, "Today's your lucky day," and throws you like a bangin' family game night. Also, so far it sounds like McGreal is such a fun guy that like the worst consequence you can suffer in his game is just no longer getting to see McGreal. The game is quite simple. Answer 4 general random questions of life correctly, and you will be gifted with whatever object you want. However, you need to be very specific on the prize, or you may get stuck with a random gift. It's not even like a monkey's paw thing, like be careful what you wish for. It's just like, you might not get exactly what you want unless you're specific. If you lose, there is no need to fret. He will never harm you, or your family, or anyone close to you. Depending on your own actions towards McGreal, he would give you the stature of respect and say, "Better luck next year." However, if you show harsh rage or judgmental reaction, he will simply force you to change what you say, delving into and torturing your mind with harsh mental images to give discipline. But don't worry, he won't kill you. It's not his style. How is this the best one so far? But there is one way to increase your chances of winning, so even after losing, you may still get something out of it. Before you would like to start the game, you could offer him something for his long travels. A cup of tea, a sandwich, anything generous as food or drink. He would take his hat off and give you a better offer instead. Anything that your heart desires. He rewards this to you because you increased his faith in humanity a step further, knowing there is still good people in this world. But that would also mean you would never see that kindred soul again until you lay on your deathbed by whatever illness or age you have. He will simply remove his hat and his mask, revealing his face to you. But before you could explain it to everyone, you would instantly pass peacefully. On the other side, he would be your guide in the afterlife, making you the best of friends. So McGreal shows up to your house, joins you and possibly your family in some kind of fun trivia game night, and then if you win, you get a cool prize. And if you lose, you get an even better prize if you're nice to him. And if you're rude to him, he makes you feel bad. You know all that fanfiction where girls ship themselves with Jeff the Killer and Slenderman and stuff? I'm just gonna write a fanfic about myself and McGreal. Man, McGreal would treat me right. And like there'd never be an awkward lull in conversation, because like, he would just start busting out fun trivia questions. Gotta do that dumb nursery rhyme. Net myself a McGreel. And then when he gets here, you're like, no McGreel. Today is your lucky day. All right, now we're going to bring it on home with a little ritual called Mr. Eyes. Very short ingredient list: a mirror, a timekeeping device equipped with a timer, a bathroom equipped with a bathtub, and a pin or other sharp object capable of drawing blood. Begin shortly before 2 a.m. Bring your supplies to your chosen bathroom. At precisely 2 a.m., set the timer for 2 minutes, then stare into the mirror, keeping your eyes open as wide as possible the entire time. Do not blink. When the timer goes off, you may blink, set the mirror aside, and fill the bathtub with as much water as it will hold. Using the pin, prick your finger and drop the blood into the water. Set the timer for 2 more minutes and stare into the water in the tub. Again, keep your eyes open as widely as possible for the entire time. Do not blink. When the timer goes off, one of 2 things may occur. If the water remains still, the summoning has failed. Do not proceed. Leave the premises immediately and do not return until daylight.
My God.
When the sun has risen, you may drain the tub. Okay,
fuck?
so if nothing happens, which nothing is likely to happen, you started the ritual at 2 a.m., and if it didn't work, you now have to leave your house for like 4 hours and just like kill time? Like what is the vibe there? Like, well, the demon didn't show up, but on the plus side, I can go through the McDonald's drive-thru and get some hotcakes. Not gonna lie, I'm a little perturbed by how simple this ritual was and that it was lacking an incantation of any kind. Just picture this with me for a minute. So I'm standing in my bathroom and I'm staring in the mirror, taking out my contact lenses, unblinking, just staring right into my own eyes, removing my contact lenses, maybe a bit slowly. Then to relax, I run myself a hot bath, probably pretty full. I love a hot bath. And then maybe while I'm relaxing in the bath, I want to shave my legs. And I nick myself just a little bit into the bathtub. Can you imagine how awkward this is? If I've now summoned a demon, if the water begins to bubble, look away from the water immediately. The summoning has succeeded, and you may proceed, but you must act quickly. Do not look back at the water while it is bubbling. You may blink now, but keep your gaze averted. When the water has ceased bubbling, you may look back at the water. If you see nothing, Mr. Eyes has decided not to play with you. Then why did he make the water bubble? You know? Like, he's just jerking me around at this point. I like that there are so many steps in this where it might just suddenly not work. And here again, they tell me to get out of my house until sunrise. If you see the image of a man, Mr. Eyes has accepted your invitation to play. You may proceed. Wait. So, the image of a man, is it just like a projected image of him on the surface of the water? Or is he there in my tub? Is he wet? My tub's not that big. Is he like curled in a fetal position, just like dripping wet, leering at me from my own bathtub? Drain the tub and break the mirror. Dispose of the pieces. See, this is why you read the entire instructions first, because since I'm already in the bathroom, full disclosure, I would have used my medicine cabinet as the mirror. And I would not have been happy to find out I have to break it. It's like, cool, yeah, I didn't want my deposit back. The main event. Go about your daily life. As you do so, you will notice a constant presence nearby. You might see him directly in your field of vision. However, you might also just sense him hovering just out of sight, in the corner of your eye, for example, or lurking in the shadows. You'll know it's him by his eyes. Or perhaps more accurately, by his lack of eyes. It's like a little comedy zinger. Nice creepy ritual writer. He'll follow you wherever you go. Let him. That's his goal in the game. Your goal in the game is to outlast him, to survive until he's given up and gone home. Well, now I'm feeling a bit sad for Mr. Eyes. I have this mental image of him shuffling into his apartment, hanging his coat by the door after another long day. You lost again. Now he's the one staring into the mirror, and he's saying to himself, you're a failure. Do people without eyes still do that? I feel like it's a universal thing. Do not fall asleep. That's how you survive. You stay awake for as long as possible. You may do so by any means necessary. Well, in that case, my life hack is to summon Mr. Eyes when, like, you're in finals week, or maybe you just had a newborn baby. Also, can they specify and tell me, like, how long Mr. Eyes tends to maintain the game. Like, does he have the same limitations as me? Because if the game just goes until he gets bored and leaves, like if this game goes for like 48 hours, I feel like I could win it. But if it's gonna go for a week, I don't want to play. The game is over when one of two things occurs. Either Mr. Eyes decides it's over, or when you fall asleep. If Mr. Eyes decides to end the game, he will fade from view. You will no longer sense his presence. He will cease hovering in your field of vision. Congratulations, you have survived. What's so, there's no prize? Like, he doesn't grant a wish or give you riches. It's just like the satisfaction of a job well done. If you fall asleep, when you awaken, you will see nothing but darkness. Well, I say see, but really what I mean is that you won't see. You fell asleep. You allowed him to take his prize. But take what comfort you can in this one fact. He'll take good care of your eyes for you. It would be unthinkable for him not to. After all, he finds them so very, very beautiful. Aw. And then there's a variation where you can play it with your friends, and in that version you have to outlast both Mr. Eyes and your friends, and it's not clear how that dynamic works. Like, you would think if Mr. Eyes gives up, then everyone still awake would win, but they make it sound like whoever falls asleep first will definitely lose their eyes. So I'm like, is your friend taking your eyes? Do they have to? I mean, if I won, I would just be like, I don't want your eyes, man. Like, I'll take them, but I don't know what I'm gonna do with them. So like, I don't know why you'd want to play with friends and make it harder for yourself, and I don't know how you'd pitch that. Like, hey guys, want to play a game where one of us definitely loses our eyes and there's nothing to gain? But like, here's my main concern. I don't want to roast Mr. Eyes, but I'm gonna do it. Okay, so this guy's name is Mr. Eyes, and presumably he really wants eyes. He's constantly playing this high-stakes game where if he wins, he gets to take your eyes. But they tell us earlier in the video that when he shows up, you know it's him because he has no eyes. I don't know about you guys, but if I was playing this particular game, I would be way more intimidated by an opponent that has a lot of eyes. Like, if he had like 58 eyes, I would be like, I'm in trouble. I just can't help but notice that either Mr. Eyes, when he gets eyes, like eats them or something when he needs eyes, which is stupid, or he's never won this game even one time. You might be thinking, this sounds like a sure bet, why not play the game? The answer is because there is no prize if I win. Like, if there's a 90% chance that I win and get nothing, and a 10% chance that I lose and don't have eyes, I think I'm gonna abstain. And with how easy this seems, he wouldn't have to offer great prizes. He could do it like the Chuck E. Cheese counters redemption system, where you're just playing for like finger traps and Sour Patch Kids. I'd still be like, yeah, I like them odds. Yeah, that one just kind of bums me out. I'm picturing Mr. Eyes going home exhausted from not sleeping, dripping wet from his time in my bathtub, and no eyes. Well, on that note, I think that's gonna wrap it up for these creepy rituals. Tell me which ones you've done before in the comments, and how many eyes you have. I'd like to thank the Tumblr user A Large B for suggesting I look into the elevator game. I usually don't take suggestions, but they're usually not good. Until next time, bye-bye. Don't cut yourself in the bathtub. Mr. Eyes can't take any more rejection. Incidentally, the Bloody Mary thing has a scientific explanation, or at least a related study. There's something called the strange face illusion, where a researcher took a bunch of people into a dark room with a mirror and then put a dim light source either next to them or behind them. Since your brain is programmed to look for faces and the light source is inadequate, your brain is looking at your own face and trying to fill in the necessary gaps. So some people see their own face with some kind of weird deformity, some people see a relative's face, some people see a stranger's face or a monster face. And it's really funny because the study like reads like it's a creepypasta itself. Like, You could kind of tell what's going on, but within the study, the researcher actually fails to offer an adequate explanation for why it's happening. He's talking in this cold, clinical way, like, some people see relatives, and of those, 60% saw dead relatives. There's one sentence where he's like, to some, the strange faces in the mirror appeared hostile or angry. This caused feelings in the subjects of anxiety, and you're like, oh, I wonder why. So, I saw Solo. Let's do this. Number 1, story bad. I'm gonna try to do a quick flyover of things that didn't make sense or felt dumb and just get this out of the way. Spoiler warning for everything. If I was the kind of alien where if sunlight hit me, it would burn my skin off, I don't think I would put my slime pool in a room with a lot of fragile glass windows and then just paint over the windows. I think I would put my slime pool room in some kind of interior room with no windows, or perhaps if it did have windows, I would like reinforce them with something that couldn't be broken if a disgruntled person threw a rock through one, especially if I had a lot of enemies who would be safer if I was dead and whom I interrogate in the slime pool room. It literally makes no sense how Han got away from the guards in the spaceport. Like the circumstances of them grabbing only Kira, who was like an inch away from Han, and then the door closing between them, but somehow not hitting either of them, and Han standing there pounding on the gate and screaming, and the gate agent being like, somebody just got through the gate, and the guards all run to the gate where they can see and hear Han. They can see him because the door is transparent for some reason, and Han continuing to loudly pound and scream on the gate, and the guards on both sides of the gate looking at Han and running directly toward Han, and then Han just kind of casually walking to the side, evading both sets of guards by putting on a hat. Also, his loyalty to Kira is sweet, but I can't believe his goal 3 years after leaving is to get back to his home planet to find Kira. Not like get out of the army and go out into space to find Kira, go back to his home planet and find Kira there. Why on earth would he think she would still be there after 3 years? She was getting hauled away and it kind of seemed like she was going to immediately be killed. She's either dead or she's moved on with her life. She is probably not hanging around in the spaceport. Were Tandy Newton and the little monkey alien exclusively added to reshoots? Because boy, it felt that way. I like how they both did nothing and died immediately. How thankless. The little alien guy was like very starkly just some kind of Star Wars rocket raccoon, both in personality and physicality. The main difference being that Rocket Raccoon sometimes says funny jokes. And him being the comic relief and the jarring tone of his immediate death was so weird and bad. It was almost comical how Tandy and the alien died after talking at length about how this was their last big job before retirement. And then Woody Harrelson talks about how the next job is his last big job before retirement, just without any sense of irony. It's so weird to set up this new team of 3 characters and then kill 66% of them in the next scene. Like when it cut to their little makeshift graves, I laughed out loud because it felt like a comedy smash cut. Like, we're all a team, it's our last big job, smash cut to graves. I don't think Beckett would have even gotten their bodies, like maybe he could get the alien's body, but Tandy Newton exploded. So I would say the rock piles are purely symbolic, but like why were they the approximate size and shape of their actual bodies then? And why this level of sentimentality from a man who's only out for himself and never mentions either of them again? I also think it's funny that Han and Chewie walk up like right after the graves have been completed, because like that must have taken some time. Like he built both of those rock piles and then also snow fell on top of them. So they'd been there a while. Like, were Han and Chewie just waiting right over the ridge, waiting for him to be done so they didn't have to help? The Tandy Newton character, whose name is Val, she was actually even worse because not only did she not add anything, she actively undermined Beckett's only character trait, which is that he didn't trust anybody. Val's lack of impact was even clumsily addressed and then like not resolved later in the movie. Beckett says not to trust anyone. Han, of course, immediately says, you trusted Val, and then Beckett's just like, I trust no one, but like, what? Like, you just ignored what Han said. He said that you trusted Val, and you did. And that didn't at any point prove to be a mistake, so it's just a big gaping hole in his character development. I mean, maybe if Val had died in the act of betraying him, but it was actually the opposite. Like, she killed herself because she saw the mission going south and she was trying to prevent all of the others from dying. It was an extremely selfless act, which proved her worthy of trust. So it's weird how Beckett just kind of breezes past that and it has no lasting impact on his character. He doesn't even stay sad for very long. Like I thought they were basically married. Why is Quinlan Voss's space yacht shaped like a tower, like you would find on Earth? The reason things are shaped like towers on Earth is because you use less real estate. So like if you're in a city, you can just buy a little bit of land and put a lot of rooms on it, and they have nice views. If you're on a flying space yacht, you don't really need a lot of floors to have nice views. You could just fly in it forever, like you don't even need to park it anywhere. All the tower shape does is make it so that every floor has like limited square footage, which is not ideal if you want to entertain. Those Planet of the Apes looking girl Wookiees, I did not like those. No thank you. I like how much the final showdown with Voss and Kira was just like the throne room scene in The Last Jedi. Like, Kira is literally standing there with a sword about to kill Han. Voss is like, yes, you didn't see this coming, but I know Kira. I see her mind. I see now as she turns her sword thing and kills her true enemy. My biggest laugh in the movie is when Kira's like, we're gonna have to get enough money to make a life for ourselves. And then it cuts away to this table that is full of heretofore unseen, giant, generic-looking Earth diamonds. Just piles of big diamonds. They're like those paperweights you can get at the mall. You know, riches. I also like that Kira is saying that to distract Han and like get him to go away and go get Beckett. And she's like, you catch up to him. I'm just gonna put these diamonds like in a bag, which will take me 20 minutes. I actually don't know why she left Han behind either. Like, she pinned it all on Beckett, so his name is clear. She still cares about him. I mean, it seems like the only reason she didn't wait for him is that she thinks his big flaw is he's too dumb and loyal and sweet. But like, she's in charge now, and I think those are pretty good traits in a trophy husband. He doesn't have to be involved in your business, Kira. Just leave him on the ship. Or if Darth Maul asks, be like, yeah, it's my boyfriend. What of it? A great twist that would have totally explained this is if after she gets Han to leave, the Mandalorian armor that's standing in the corner of the room like on display suddenly moves and it's Boba Fett and he's been here the whole time and he and Kira passionately kiss. Now that is how you set up a Boba Fett movie. I will admit that I was excited to see Darth Maul, but I think it's kind of because my eyes were just glazed over by that point in the movie and it was like a shot in the arm, like, oh, a thing happened. He did look a little uncanny valley with the voiceover thing. Like, I love Ray Park and I love Sam Witwer, but I think that one cannot have both. Enfys Nest takes the helmet off and it's like a big reveal, and it's treated so much like a reveal that I was like, is that like Woody Harrelson's daughter with Tandy Newton that we didn't know about? And then I was like, no, I guess the reveal is just that it's a child. And then I realized it was an adult woman with youthful features, and I was like, oh, I guess the twist is just that it's a girl. When is a fighter being revealed to be a girl going to stop being treated like an adequate twist? I mean, the fighter being a girl was a twist when Metroid did it in 1986. Is that really a thing we can play straight anymore? I mean, in this particular universe, it's not even that unusual for girls to fight. It seems pretty equal opportunity. I also thought it was lame that Han helps specifically a rebellion right here in the prequel movie. Like, I thought that was a growth moment for him in the original trilogy, but apparently it's just a thing that he's done before. Number 2, the characters. Okay, here's the thing. One of the first things everybody started asking me was like, how were the performances in the movie? Probably because Lucasfilm, aware that the production was troubled and that they were getting a lot of bad press, decided to throw Aldrin Ehrenreich. They decided to throw him under the bus and leak the news that he needed acting lessons, which, by the way, I would call unforgivably cruel. The thing is that asking me how the acting was in this movie is like asking me how the acting was when I've just seen a high school production of Seussical the Musical. Like, well, I couldn't really tell you. It's not really that kind of production, friend. I don't think there's a single actor in this that I haven't seen and liked in something else. So I know they all can act for what it's worth. Nobody did a bad job, but Aldrin Anglerfish
this is so
didn't have a
fucking
single
stupid.
thing to do. So how am I to know? Han Solo was physically present in practically every scene, but he spent the whole time standing around, looking like he didn't understand what was going on, and grinning like an idiot. And he sounds so much like Christian Slater, but I think that's just the guy's voice. Han Solo's character development happens in the original trilogy. Like, he's this tough guy who doesn't have very good morals and likes to act like he's only out for himself, but he secretly has a heart of gold, and he learns to care about his friends and the rebellion and become like the hero. So I figured Han in a prequel could go one of two ways. One, he starts out nice and bright-eyed and wants to help everyone and then ends up bitter and jaded. Or two, he starts out jaded and not wanting to help anyone and then learns to be nice. Neither is ideal, because one is just kind of predictable and boring, and the other one is like an echo of his other arc in the original trilogy and kind of dampens the impact of that. Instead, though, the movie just does neither of those, which, like, kudos for surprising me, I guess, but the reason that surprises me is because I thought they wouldn't do it because it would be very boring and strange to do. Han just starts the movie one way and then ends the movie the same way. Like, he's a con man who's out for himself, but he's also loyal to the people he cares about, which is pretty middle of the road. I would say he demonstrates by shooting Woody Harrelson that he's learned not to trust.
Okay.
But he's still, like, smiley and wants to be best friends with
I was
Chewie,
waiting
so
for them.
seems
What
like
the
it didn't
fuck?
get him down too much. I guess the lesson Han learns is just don't trust people who have already actively betrayed you multiple times, which, congratulations, Han. The two performances I specifically enjoyed were Paul Bettany and Donald Glover. Paul Bettany's just really fun to watch as a bad guy. He's like some kind of evil Gordon Ramsay, and he's definitely giving it like 110%. But there's just absolutely nothing to his character. Donald Glover was doing such a good impression of OG Lando, which was really fun to watch. Unfortunately, there wasn't a lot of Lando in this story. Like, he didn't have an opportunity to show a lot of range, so it really was just an impression, which isn't Donald Glover's fault. I mean, at least he seemed like he was having a lot of fun with it, making strong choices, and doing a distinctive character, so he was my favorite.
Good lord,
Val
I want to
and
end
Rio,
myself.
whose names I had to look up, were not characters. They didn't do anything. They die, like, immediately. Oh, and, by the way, Rio and Beckett both do the same, like, hilariously bad death acting. It was so weird. Come here, Skippy. Skippy is going to help me demonstrate a death scene, as seen in Solo. So, as you can see, I'm, like, cradling him as he lays dying. Are you crying yet? And Skippy goes, ugh. And that's it. Like, they both just sighed and shrugged their heads back. I call that the whatever death. Like, you're just kind of fed up with being alive. Anakin's mom did it too. The only character with a consistent personality and through line was Kira. I mean, in the case of Emilia Clarke and Woody Harrelson, it was just kind of like showing up and doing the thing that you always do. But I thought Kira as a character worked okay. Not all of her decisions fully made sense, but I think functionally she was supposed to be Han's character foil, which is good, because she'll basically compromise her morals and just align herself with the most powerful person in her immediate surroundings to survive, which Han won't do, so that worked for me. Number 3, the scrubbing the story clean of nearly every joke. This movie started out being made as a comedy, and then the reshoots, I thought, were intended to make it like still a comedy, but toned down. But then you watch it and you find out that the reshoots were actually intended to make it like a drama with occasional jokes. I wouldn't call this end result a comedy any more than I would call, like, Rogue One a comedy. It's an action movie with a handful of jokes, but the jokes are the exception and not the rule. Which is bizarre, because I feel like the story just on its own merits doesn't really offer anything interesting. But you wouldn't really need a great story if it was like a fun comedy romp, because comedies are like all journey and no destination. I can't claim to know what the original cut of the movie was like, but there were a few points that really stood out to me as like elements that were set up and then dropped or abandoned, or felt like half of a joke which was then cut because maybe it became too funny and didn't mesh with the tone. Like, this was the skeleton of a movie that would be filled with jokes, but the jokes just weren't there, and the jokes would be the muscles or perhaps the veins, whatever's more important. Probably both of them are pretty important. Han asks Chewie his name, and Chewie responds with like Wookiee noises, and then Han is like, Chewbacca, huh? And you're like, how? So that doesn't make sense, and a good comedy movie might like acknowledge that it doesn't make sense and use it as the setup for a funny joke. Actually, what I think would be funniest is if they're having this whole conversation, Chewbacca's making his Wookiee sounds, and then Han's like, what's your name? And Chewbacca is like, Chewbacca. And then like that's the only time he speaks English in all of canon. He only speaks Wookiee from then on, but that is how Han learned his name. I think it's funny when Chewie pulls the arms off that guard and then Han complains that that's the uniform that would have fit him and he can't use it as a disguise now. The obvious follow-up joke would be that the next time you see Han, he is wearing an outfit that just completely doesn't fit him, like it's from a guard that's like a diminutive species of alien. Like a tight little uniform jacket, and like the sleeves don't cover his arms, and like his midriff is out. It's like a crop top, and he just looks like an adult man in a child's Halloween costume. And like he walks out to the other guards and he's trying to act natural, and they're just immediately like, we know that's not your uniform, and he has to fight his way out. And then the whole rest of the action sequence, like he's doing cool heroic stuff. They're like shooting guards, he's jumping over stuff, but it's all rendered comedic by the fact that he's in these ill-fitting, emasculating looking clothes. I also want to go back to L3. This is a big one for me. So L3 is a comedic character. She and Lando bicker a lot, and there is a scene where L3 tells Kira that Lando has the hots for her, and Kira is like amused and taken aback by this. Then a few minutes later, L3 is injured and dies, and Lando like freaks out and he runs to her, and dramatic music plays. Lando gets shot in the arm. Han is like looking on in sympathy, and just tonally it makes no sense. It's very weird. So here's my conspiracy theory about how it played out in the Lord and Miller version. I think L3 tells Kira that Lando has a crush on her, and Kira is like surprised and amused and thinks that L3 is just a delusional droid with a crush. The way I'm imagining it, Lando isn't like annoyed with L3. It's just a very like courteous working relationship, like any pilot with his navigation droid. Like there's no real tension between them at all that you've seen. Then L3 gets shot, and Lando reacts massively. Like he runs over to her, he's like weeping, it's beautiful. There's no dramatic music, it's just all Lando with his overwrought reaction. He like embraces her, he kisses her weird mouthless face passionately as if she's a human lover, and it's this beautiful operatic death. It turns out L3 actually was the love of his life, and while this is unfolding, it smash cuts to Han or Kira, and they're reacting like they and the audience realize that they have completely misread this relationship. And then you can have Lando being like comedically, melodramatically broken and weepy until the point where they plug in L3's brain to the ship, because then it's like she's still alive, or it's what she would have wanted, or whatever, and then he can be his normal self again. Also, for the record, I don't like that L3 is like a lady-voiced robot with shapely hips and long legs. Like, imagine how much funnier that scene would play out if she was like basically a Dalek from Doctor Who, like just a big garbage can shaped robot with like big metal arms that like move like this, and like a synthesized voice, and it's like, Lando and I, we are in love. Anyway, here's what passes for a joke in this movie, and I wrote it down because I was aghast. Okay, so something crazy or dangerous occurs, and then the little monkey-armed alien goes, "You've never been to a Minoc roast on Ardinia. It's nuts. Waka waka." That is like the part of the movie where I started to go, oh no. Number 4, the outfits. The outfits were so boring. Half of the clothes were just stuff you could pick up at the mall. Like Kira's in like a bomber jacket, and she has a bob. Then later her hairstyle is just like a ponytail with bangs, and she's wearing like little stud earrings. It's like, yay, we're in space. It's a space ponytail. She has the one good outfit that's like the leather collar thing with like the red cape that she changes into for their mission, and I imagine that's the one everyone's gonna cosplay as because it's like the only memorable one. And then after that, she changes into like a plain black jumpsuit that looks like she got it at Urban Outfitters. The bad guy Voss, he's just wearing like a suit, just like an Earth businessman suit. The shirt underneath is satiny, and one of the jacket sleeves is like oversized and billowy, kind of like a cape, and that's all we get. And then they go on their mission and they come back like at least a full day later and he's still wearing the same outfit. Like, I know the reshoot schedule was tight, but surely they had time to change Paul Bettany's clothes between shots. I mean, admittedly, sitting around in the same clothes as yesterday eating space caviar is like a big move. The infantry that's fighting like World War I style in the trenches are wearing like modified stormtrooper armor that's supposed to look older and more Earth-like, I guess. And like it doesn't protect the soldiers as well, so what's the point of that? Because the Empire never seemed like they were financially strapped to get those stormtrooper costumes. Like, we've seen a lot of them before. Lando's wardrobe was fun to look at and it had fun colors, but it did kind of bum me out that it was just capes. Like, I've never gotten the impression before that Lando only wears capes and he has a big closet that's full of capes. Like, Lando wore capes in the original trilogy, and I guess we can't make up anything new, so Lando has only worn capes his whole life and nothing else. I would think if Lando is like this zany personality and he loves fashion, that he would have an extremely varied wardrobe, and every outfit has some kind of zany quirk to it. Like, one has crazy sleeves and the other one is covered with sequins, not just like the same outfit in a broad spectrum of colors. But no, we don't have any thinking outside the box. And the box is the existing canon. Like, you can't use the canon to draw new exciting conclusions. You just have to do the same thing that we've seen. And by the way, why would Lando build like a bulky mechanical cheating at cards device to put inside his sleeve, which would then shoot out a card to cheat with, which is surely harder to conceal than just a single flat playing card that you could easily put in your sleeve? Apparently no one is checking up sleeves if he's got the device. Personally, I feel like he's overcomplicating it a lot more than he needs to. Oh, blame my inferior eyes and my failure to buy a visual dictionary if I'm wrong, but Kira's wearing this necklace and it looks like it's just like a silver necklace chain and then like a silver rectangle on a necklace. And then at the end of the movie, after the big adventure, you see Lando again. He's wearing his like Hawaiian shirt outfit and it looks like he's wearing the same necklace. Is there some kind of space significance to a rectangle? Or are they just really in fashion right now? Or is Lando wearing Kira's necklace and I missed something? Like, what does it mean? What's going on? Number 5, L3. L3 gets her own bullet point because, hot take, I hate L3. I hate that she's named Leet. I hate that we like never get girl droids, and when we do, she has to have like curvy woman hips and she has to stand like this, like a sassy woman does, and like nag people all the time. Here's the thing about L3 where you can really feel those rewrites happening. So they made L3 like a social justice warrior droid, and she shouts obvious things like droid rights. That's what she's doing. The very first moment we meet her, she's like talking to these recreational battle droids that are being fought to the death, like trying to appeal to them to rise up against their oppressors. She's trying to get a chant going. Anyway, okay, droid rights. And then they're stealing the coaxium and they're in like this control center, and she takes a restraining bolt off of a little droid at the console, and then she says very sarcastically like, "Yay, you're free, okay, get out of my way, go start a revolution," or something. It's very sarcastic and very dismissive, like she's just trying to get this droid to get away from the console. But then the little droid that she freed does do that. It does start a revolution, and then L3 calls Lando over the comm device, and she's like, "I found my calling as like a liberator of droids." The rewriting part is when you're like, wait, what does that mean? Because that's been her goal the whole time, and why was she so sarcastic about freeing the droid when that's something she really earnestly wants to do? Why was she like a weird jerk to the little droid and just acting like she wanted him to get out of the way? So here are 2 ways that could have played out and like made sense. Number 1, she gives a passionate speech to the droid, earnestly trying to urge him to break free. We've seen her do this before and it's never worked before. The droid that she's talking to looks like it's just like an idiot. It's like she's talking to a toaster. Like, it just has this big vacant eye. It doesn't look like it's processing anything she's saying. The character she's with like rolls their eyes and it cuts away to some action somewhere else. Then later in the action scene, things could be like going south for the heroes, like, oh no, how do we get out of this one? And then suddenly all these little droids charge in, and the joke is like, surprise, all these apathetic, stupid looking astromech droids actually did start a revolution. Like, oh my god, it worked. One of them that looks like a vacuum cleaner could like roll in carrying a little makeshift droid flag that looks super like inept, like a kid made it.
Alright, I'm gonna restart the recording so that this one isn't too long. This one's already an hour long. I still gotta fucking finish that mission. Oh my god. Okay, I'll be back. Okay.